Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. I've got an incredible pleasure for you tonight to introduce to you to someone who I just think is amazing. I've interacted with her in business and politics and media, and she is a piece of work in a very, very positive manner. Linda Leatherdale. She is one of Canada's leading financial journalists. She served as the money editor for Sun Media, including the Toronto, Ottawa, and Edmonton Suns, and gained a loyal following of readers. She was recently awarded a Queen's Diamond Jubilee Medal for her work and is the recipient of many awards for her taxpayer consumer crusades, retirement planning, and real estate seminars, and for being instrumental in getting legislation passed in her quest for a healthy, wealthy middle class. She is now, and this is how I've most recently become familiar with her, she's Vice President, Marketing and Business Development for Cambria, which is a privately held, family-owned, U.S.-based manufacturer of natural quartz services and one of the fastest-growing companies in North America. They've got a studio just by the Distillery District that is just amazing, and I've spoken at an event in their facility, and Linda's been kind enough, along with some of her other executives, to take me for lunch and tell me all about Cambria and some of the charitable works they're doing. Very impressive. Linda, how are you? Welcome to our show.
Well, Brian, it's always great to see you, and thank you. It's a joy to be on.
So tell me a little bit about, what you're doing, because, I know about Cambria, but that's such a big change from the work that you were doing previously in media and politics.
Well, let's take it back. I'm going to blame one person, if you want to say blame, Ronnie Hawkins.
Okay.
Ronnie was a regular, as you know, on my TV show Moneyline with Fred Ketchen, and one of the longest serving brokers on Bay Street. Fred just passed away. So I just want to say, Fred, I loved him. But Ronnie and our Cambria CEO is a big music fan. And Ronnie, he wanted Levon Helm from the band to be his brand advocate. He said no. He's golfing in Palm Desert with Peter Pocklington, who was my columnist when he owned the Oilers out in Edmonton.
Right.
And Peter said, go to Canada and get Ronnie Hawkins. That's where the band came from. So, people go, okay, quartz. And then Ronnie, rock and roll. And I said, well, we rock hard and we like to rock and roll. So Ronnie became a brand advocate for Cambria. And it wasn't long after that the CEO, Marty Davis, invited me to become VP of Marketing and Business Development. And I'm doing more in the public relations side now and social media. But I've been with coming up 12 years on April Fool's Day.
Really?
Congratulations. So a long ride, been for a family-owned business, and they owned Davisco Foods before, which was in the cheese business, etc. They started Cambria in 2000, came to Canada in 2007, and now is a global enterprise. And I got to tell you, they were just named the family-owned manufacturer of the year for 2020, and that marked their 20th anniversary.
Now you've got this studio in north of the Distillery District. Why do you have that studio?
You're talking about the one of the distillery, or?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. We call it a gallery, and it's a place that anybody can come and check out our designs. As you know, we offer it we've done many a fundraiser. We did a fundraiser with Steven Tyler from Aerosmith in that gallery, but we don't sell direct out of it, but it's a place to come and see our designs and get more information and get educated. So we also have a fabrication facility that we own in Bolton. So we fabricate ourselves in this market, and we bought a quartz mine. So our raw material, it comes from Canada. When I keep on hearing we're going to make America great, I think we're making North America great because we really have a real footprint here in Canada, and it's nice to see this company grow.
So the quartz comes from Canada, goes to the United States to get manufactured, and comes back to here to get fabricated.
That is right.
And what is it known for? You're known for what? Countertops primarily?
Primarily, but we're in commercial. We just came out with a new application, 6 millimeters. So if you come to our gallery, you would see that we can do showers. We're in elevators. We're Rogers Cup. We sponsored Rogers Cup. The Rogers Chairman's Lounge. I had the Rogers logo in our what we call cardigan red. So and Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment. We're everywhere. We're everywhere.
You had a beautiful wine closet, as I remember.
Oh, yes, we have a wonderful wine closet, and we love wine. And the beauty about Cambria, it's non-porous, so it will never stain. So if you like that red wine, You can have it.
You
And
want
if
the
it
courts.
spills, it's not going to stay.
And I understand you've got like quite the lineup of people supporting it. Brand advocates have included supermodel Cheryl Teagues, actor Meryl Hemingway, your good friend Ronnie Hawkins, HGTV star Scott McGilvery.
Yep. When I first began, it was Cheryl Teagues. And I remember the attitude was, well, we're in the States. Who in Canada would know who Cheryl Teagues is? Brian, we all know who Cheryl Teagues is. And she was a delight to work with. We've worked with Meryl Hemingway. As you know, that's Ernest Hemingway's granddaughter, an actor, and as well a mental health advocate. So she's been on, E-Talk with Bell's campaign for mental health. And she's just a great, and then she believes that our surroundings, if we have wonderful, healthy product surroundings, our mental health will be better too. So it was a pleasure. And she supported us with Camp Cambria. So we send children with juvenile arthritis to camp. And there was nothing in Canada until Cambria came to Canada and started this initiative. And, our fundraiser was to be with David Foster. And I think that's when you and I met.
Yep.
But of course, with the COVID pandemic, it's got moved out. But we're going to be back. It's tough doing fundraising during COVID, but it's a camp that's great for these kids. And Mary would come up and teach yoga to the kids.
I had Cheryl Teagues on my wall when I was a teenager. We're going to take a break for some messages and come back more with Linda Leatherdale in just a minute. We're going to have a good conversation, I think, about a couple different topics I want to ask her about. I want to ask her about Cambria and renovations and what's happening in the marketplace today with housing and low mortgage rates and people sort of fixing up their homes. I want to talk about media because she was certainly involved in media for a long period of time, particularly the money aspects of media. And then you can't talk to Linda without talking a little bit about politics. So I want to hear what she's got to say about what's going on right now. We're going to take a break. Come back in just a minute. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour, 2nd and 60. Chatting tonight with Linda Leatherdale, who probably a lot of you recognize, either the face or the voice, because she's been in media in Canada for a long period of time. Sun newspapers and Money Talks and just a whole bunch of different media exposure that Linda has had over the years. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. But now she is the vice president of marketing and business development, does a bunch of public relations for an American firm that's very, very active in Canada called Cambria. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that firm and what the industry they're involved in, which is renovations. Because Linda, I think what's happening, I hear, is that a lot of people are stuck at home and therefore are investing more money than sort of typical in their homes. And I'm told you can't get a renovator or contractor if your life depended on it. And it's like a year delay to get a pool and stuff like that. So what's going on, do you think?
Well, it's incredible because I think when the pandemic hit, we all thought, like, everybody talks about a real estate bubble. Is it going to burst? Are they going to be losing their jobs? Well, the complete opposite happened on the real estate sector. First of all, I want to say I'm sad for those who have been affected negatively. We know that there's a lot of bars where people work, restaurants have suffered. But I will say the renovation industry, first of all, people can't go on their trips. They've got a little bit of extra cash and they've got the kids at home. They're sitting there working from their home office and it's driving them crazy. So what we have seen is, I need a new kitchen or I need a new office. And you are so right. I know so many renovators and builders, et cetera, that are just booked. And even with the lockdown, like there were instances where a renovator could not perhaps go into your home, but now we're back. And yes, the quotes are happening. Another recent report shows that when it comes to these renovations, they want value too. They want good quality products. And, it's an opportunity for Cambria, seeing quite an uptick. We thought the complete opposite would happen, but it's been an uptick. So people ask me, well, what do I do when I'm going to renovate? Well, first of all, sit down and make sure that you can afford it and get that budget. And I often say use Build, that's the Toronto Home Builders Rental Mark approved renovators, because they have the insurance and there's some fly-by-nighters. And so just be careful who you're dealing with and plan it out. But again, when it comes to, let's say, a countertop, and not that, here I'm promoting, but that you're not going to replace every year. So make sure that you're going to get something that pleases you, that you're going to have in.
Tell me, let's talk about that, because I've been told that that's one of the most important investments you can make. Is number one, kitchen is where you get the biggest bang for your buck in renovations. And people tell me that, appliances are number one, but after appliances, it's countertops.
Yeah, it's countertops. Again,
particularly on big islands.
Oh, and okay, here I am promoting Cambria again, but we just came out with 4 new designs this last week. It was actually launched at KBiz. That's a huge kitchen and bath show that was in Orlando, but that was virtual. So this has been an interesting, anyway, these designs are absolutely stunning. But last year on our 20th anniversary, we teamed up with Gensler, a global design firm, to come up with even more designs. And then we did the coordinates collection, over 30 new designs. So I got to tell you, the look of marble has been really, really, really popular. And as you know, marble can stain whatever, but quartz that looks just stunning. It's not going to stain, and it's healthy, and we're Green Guard certified, et cetera, et cetera. So
that's the big advantage of quartz, is that it doesn't stain, but it looks like marble.
Yeah, it can. And we've got so many looks, and we've also come up with sustainability. So one of our designs actually is recycled Cambria product in a block design, which is, again, stunning. So it's you say like it's countertops in your kitchen, but as I mentioned, commercial venues, restaurants in particular, because again, it holds up. So
I've also heard that the next thing to do is washrooms.
Oh, well, the 2 renovations that if you're going to do that are going to give you the return on your dollar and add equity to your home are definitely kitchens and bathrooms. Right. And again, it's on fire. Bathroom renovations are on fire too. And as I mentioned, we've got a new wall cladding. We actually have a new book matching. So you could have a shower done all in Cambria. When it comes to the kitchen, I've seen double stories. I mean, the designs are incredible. So if you go to CambriaUSA.com or Cambria Surfaces, you're just going to be blown away. But there's so many opportunities out there. And those renos, if done properly, I believe will add to the equity in your home for sure. No 2 ways about it.
Okay. And, what you're saying is your firm didn't really slow down during the pandemic.
Well, we thought, when it all hit, everybody, we hunkered down. We weren't sure what it was going to happen. But as I said, renovations, and then even the home builders, think about this. How many people are moving out of the city? They're moving further, like Niagara, North, Muskoka, whatever. Builders are on fire right now with building new subdivisions. And again, we are offered often as an upgrade, but we might even be in there. So it was just unbelievable. We did not expect it.
Are you worried about economic recovery coming out of this pandemic, or do you think it's going to stay on fire?
You know what? I got to admit this, Brian. I mean, I called the crash in real estate of 1990, and I called it right on. And a lot of people who read me cashed out their home, rented for 6 years. And then when it hit the bottom in 1996, they bought back in. I had a cousin who called me and said, Linda, should I be selling my house now? Because is this going to happen again? Well, a lot of people were very worried because we have record household debt in this country. Yep. And mortgage debt is up unbelievable, but we have very, very low interest rates. So I got to tell you, it is tough for me to call because the foreign investors are coming here. With a lot of uncertainty in the world, Vancouver is getting more Asian immigrants, which is, again, most expensive place to buy a home is Vancouver, Toronto second.
Yeah, but I saw a statistic, Linda, just last week that 75% of people that were getting condos this year were that as investments, were planning on selling them because of number one, the depreciation of rents, yes, and then number two, because of the vacant condo tax. And so, I think, aren't we facing a situation where a lot of those foreign investors that may have wanted to, buy and rent or buy and put on Airbnb, those opportunities just aren't nearly as profitable. And we've got more condos coming on the market in Canada, in Toronto this year than have ever come on in the past. And a lot of those have been bought by investors where they're going to have to make their last payments, and the last payments, maybe not above market value.
There you go. Condos got hit hard. I had a gentleman who was on my TV show all the time, Frank Clayton, and he would fight with Jamie Johnson, whose condos, Remax Plus in downtown Toronto. He said, the market's going to crash. Frank would say, he would say, no. Jamie would say, no, 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 no. Well, now we are actually seeing it, and it has been overbuilt up. But I think the other thing is with this exit, think about all of these, Scotiabank Tower, BMO Tower, people are not in there working and paying, and a lot of young kids bought condos to be close to their job. Well, now they're working from their home office. So that has had a huge impact. And you are absolutely right. Can this happen though now to the detached homes, to the market? Are we overbaked? There are some global economists that say a day of reckoning will arrive. Let's not forget, we just saw the bond market go up. That affects the fixed rates, the 5-year mortgages and whatever. They've gone up a bit. My advice to anybody is you might want to consider locking in if you're playing the variable rate now. If indeed, it's a tough one, Brian. Everybody, I love Canada because the home ownership has always been there. So that dream has always come true. But I do worry because our governments, now listen to this, the total debt, 3.2 trillion if we added in all the provincial debt. We are like 163% of GDP. Then we got 2.3 trillion on consumer debt. Is this totally sustainable? So then you get reports that came out of CMHC and teasing, would they put a home equity tax on our principal residences? And a lot of the kids who want it say, well, I can't afford a home, so we better tax them. Well, be careful. If your parents are going to leave you the home in a will, now you're going to be paying tax on it. So be careful what you wish for. I hope that.
But Linda, for this to continue, we've got to have interest rates that stay low. And we have, as you've mentioned, we've got a huge amount of debt. But in addition, we've got values of houses to incomes are the highest they've ever been in Canadian history. They're at the same ratio that they were in the United States in 2007 before.
Doesn't that worry you?
2008, 2009. And debt to incomes are at a high. So, it's just that we can afford it today because of the low interest rates.
Right.
But there's no promise that interest rates are going to stay low forever.
You're so right, Brian. For example, we owe, as a percent of our disposable income, over 170%. That means for every $1 we have in disposable income, we owe $1.71. Well, to me, that's unsustainable. So you're absolutely right. People were using their homes as an ATM. So let's not forget that they were borrowing against this home equity too. Again, the day of reckoning could arrive. There's no guarantee that these interest rates are going to stay that low. However, when you go to Europe, some of these nations are in negative interest rates where they're actually paying you to have debt. Okay, that's
coming out of a pandemic with record unemployment. That's what makes sense to do, but you can't keep it going you can't keep it going forever. You can't even keep it going for a long time, because if you do, then, the debt's going to just completely smother the balance of the economy. So I think you're going to have, both in Canada and the United States, unbelievably stimulative budgets this year.
Yes.
Next year is going to be the start of austerity. And it's going to have to be, because you're going to have to start to pay down debt.
Well, Brian, here's the other thing I keep on saying. I'm a tax crusader. Today's debt, tomorrow's taxes. What are we doing to our kids? We owe so much money. Taxes have no way but to go up. So that combined with the record, I know families who are barely hanging on. They couldn't afford another property tax increase, or they couldn't afford another hike in the GST, for example. And then this home equity tax. We're already hearing ideas being floated out there. So the tax grab, it's going to go higher. It will. And it's sad because a lot of families won't be able to afford that.
But they've gotten the benefit through, huge stimulus in the past year.
That's right.
Unbelievably low interest rates, so that they've been able to borrow and upgrade and buy houses and renovate and afford equity credit lines and things like that. Unheard of.
I know.
10 or 20 years ago, to have long-term interest rates at these numbers.
And the banks, they just reported again record profits, and their loan loss provisions came down a bit. They were getting ready and were fearful that that might happen. People would forfeit on their mortgages and there would be a complete calamity. Now we keep on hearing we didn't have subprime here in Canada, that our banks are far more regulated, that they don't allow this kind of, I call it casino capitalism, but that's not necessarily true. When you looked at some of the deals that banks are putting out there, some of these cashbacks, et cetera, you are actually in what I call it the subprime. So there's a lot of people out there pumping you to invest and become a real estate investor. You're going to get rich. All I can say, if it's too good to be true, it ain't true. And a day of reckoning may arrive. So it's your money. And if you're heading into retirement, the last thing you want to be doing is gambling. And let's not forget, we got CPP and old age security. Are those going to get scaled back? Who knows?
Well, I think it's also supply and demand that's sort of affecting things, because what you've got is a situation where a lot of people that may have been thinking about moving, whether it was going to be home, cashing into their home equity and moving, if they're in, a single family detached home in suburbia, aren't doing it because they don't want to have people trouncing through their house during COVID, and they don't want to go looking for something else during COVID. They're sort of hunkering down. And yet the people that are in condos downtown that are too small for them, if they're working from home all the time, are looking to come to suburbia. And that's why you've got these bidding wars where you've got a dozen people or more bidding on one house, so that you've just got this incredible supply and demand imbalance. But assuming that the vaccine continues to be rolled out, that infections go down as they look like, and we have, the reduction in the summer that it would appear we had last year, and, Trump and other people think we always have. I think things are going to loosen up in a couple of months, and if condos are down 25%,
they're going to be buying.
Be people that say, now's the time to go back and get that condo, and don't rent that condo, buy that condo. And so you may have the return. And as soon as you have a little bit of that return, the supply demand imbalance goes away. And then you've got to base the values on, long-term value. And we are at, I worry, an unsustainable high level of debt and high level of housing prices relative to incomes, particularly with huge unemployment. And on top of it all, and you and I know this, you go through Bronte, you go through Oakville, you go through Mississauga, there's so many stores that are closed. There's a lot of businesses that are going to go bankrupt.
Yeah. Well, it used to be that we said back in 1990, I'm just going to put this out there, 6% of renters could afford a home back then. And that's why the market crashed. The element that has been thrown into us right now is immigration and then foreign investors. And you're right. We've got new vacancy taxes on even homes that they were buying sight unseen. Heavens, Ronnie Hawkins sold his beautiful Stony Lake farm. I believe there might be investors, Chinese, but it's sitting vacant. And we had a last hurrah party. Just got to add this in. Ronnie has the best friends. Chris Christopherson was there. Bev D'Angelo was there. Jim Cuddy was on stage playing with Chris Christopherson, the Weber brothers, the Parker brothers. What a party. Happy birthday, Ronnie. He just turned 86 in January. So
I should have asked you for an invite. Sounds like it was a party. We're going to take a break and come back more with Linda Leatherdale in just a minute. Stay with us. Well, welcome back to the Brian Crombie Radio, our Saga 960. A real pleasure for me tonight to interview Linda Leatherdale, someone who I've looked up to and befriended and thought of as just a wonderful, wonderful person in our community. She was in our community of Mississauga. She was on the board of the Southside Shuffle for numerous years. She's very knowledgeable about money issues and about political issues. Number one, because she's interested in it and knowledgeable about it, but number two, because she was in media for numerous years on these topics. She can be heard regularly on the Roy Green Show on 11 talk radio stations on the Chorus Radio Network across the country. She was host of the popular Moneyline TV show and Linda's Money Show. She was also a regular financial commentator on City TV's Breakfast TV and on Global TV, and a contributor for numerous different publications. She's an author of a best-selling book, Money is a Girl's Best Friend. Well, that'll be interesting. She has sat on numerous boards, including the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, Credit Canada, Southside Shuffle, as I mentioned, the Arthritis Society of Canada, and served as chair of the Bronte Business Improvement Area, the BIA. That's where we met last, as we ran into each other in the bar on the back of a restaurant in downtown.
We did.
She began her journalistic career at the Aurelia Packet and Times newspaper in her home. I didn't know you were from Aurelia.
Gordon Lightfoot.
Lee Cox, Mariposa, and now resides in Oakville. She's married and the mother of 2 children.
Thanks, Brian. And you know what? You're a great friend too. Thank you.
That's very, very kind of you. So I didn't know you were from Aurelia. What's that like?
Yes.
Is that like being a small town girl coming to the big city?
Oh, absolutely. Are you kidding me? My dad owned Leatherdale Marine Sales. So I came from a line of small business entrepreneurs. His father owned Leatherdale Tire Service. Well, I finally got to know Gordon Lightfoot thanks to Ronnie Hawkins. And I keep on saying, he calls me the finance lady. And I said, Gordon, I'm the little girl from Aurelia who babysat for your older sister, Bev. And in fact, I think the first time I ever met Gordon Lightfoot, I was 15 or 16 babysitting for his older sister. I was in the family homestead in Aurelia, and I hear this kerfuffle. I'm trying to sneak my boyfriend in. You'll love the story. And I hear somebody, I said, Bill, you better get lost. It was Ronnie Hawkins and Gordon Lightfoot. So, and we've done a couple of events in our gallery with Gordon Lightfoot and Ronnie. And yeah, so I'm proud to be an Aurelian. Love it. I haven't moved back yet. The Packet and Times, which is so sad, is no longer. That's what worries me. The downfall of media and the free speech and democracy in this country, because that is a pillar of democracy, our media.
So what's your concern, that media is going to be squashed, or small town newspaper media?
Well, small town newspapers, the community news means so much. We can get so much about Toronto or Canada or even abroad, but these little communities, I believe, is so important. Now, they do have a digital newspaper called Aurelia Matters. I subscribe. So these things are popping up, and that's good. But, you know, we hear fake news. We have social media. Social media can get away with anything. Heavens, if I put some of this stuff on social media when I worked at the Toronto Sun, our lawyer would have me fired. You know, like that, this worries me.
Now, you mentioned fake news, and I know you spend time in the United States. Your firm is American headquarters.
Yeah.
Do we have fake news, do you think?
Yeah, but in a way that you would not believe. I think what worries me is how the hatred is being spread, and a lot of it on social media, a lot of it on these platforms that don't get closed down. And I want to say something. The hatred in the world, I looked back on everything, and I think it's economic, because people that feel like, you know, make America great again, feel like they've lost their jobs globally. And indeed they have. Hey, I want to put a little plug in for Cambria, family owned, out of Minnesota. When you phone our customer sales, you get a person, a real person who lives in the United States, pays taxes in the United States, you know, growing job. That to me, we've gone off track with capitalism. When you can go to Wall Street, and some of those subprime players never went to jail for what they did. They brought down Greece, they brought down Iceland, and they floated this out, and it was nothing more than betting that it couldn't be sustainable. That to me is not capitalism. The company I work for is true good old-fashioned capitalism, where they have profit sharing, where they make your employees feel part of a team. And we got to get back there. And I don't care where you are. So when I see the hatred in the world, it's because they feel they're going backwards, not forwards. And there's where I believe in a healthy, wealthy middle class, because they're the ones I have met, even through Cambria, immigrant families that have come here, started up a kitchen and bath dealer, and they work hard. And that's what we need. So we got to remember that we are a country of immigrants from way back, and we got to love each other. I hate the hatred, Brian. I really do.
But it sounds like it to me. It's almost as if, and I spoke with some of your executives, and I canvassed a bunch of different people across the United States before the election and during the race riots that occurred. You know, what was it? Almost 10 months ago, I guess. It almost seemed to me like there were two complete solitudes. It was particularly in the United States, you know, living in echo chambers, one group that listened to CNN and CNBC, and another group that listened to Fox News and some of the other,
Yeah.
and they don't talk to each other, and they don't know about each other's existence, or they know, but they don't like.
You know what? I believe in opinions, because Lord knows the Toronto Sun had some opinionated right-wing columnists, but I also believe in delivering the news without that rhetoric, the straight goods. And I think as responsibility in the media is to do just that. And I again, there's too much unregulated social media platforms where hatred is being pushed down your throat. And it's so easy if you just lost a job and to say, you bees, I'm not going to say it on your radio show, but there's anger that starts to grow, and then the hatred grows. That doesn't do anybody any good. Yeah. And so I guess I'm coming from another side. I got accused of being too opinionated at times, and I love opinion, but guys, we gotta, I'm worried for what's coming, and we got to make sure our economy lasts through this, and that we do have jobs for everybody. I really believe that.
Well, I think it's going to be tough, because I think there's going to be a lot of small business bankruptcies. And I think there's going to be a lot of small businesses that may not go bankrupt, but are going to be saddled with debt that is sort of unsustainable in the long term. And it's going to be a millstone around their neck as they, spent hundreds of thousands of dollars trying to stay alive during the last year. And I don't think we've seen, the half of that. And then there's a lot of people that have taken, and, maybe they stayed home and they didn't go traveling, so they cut their expenses, but they took wage cuts, or they took furloughs, or they were laid off. And so therefore the unemployment statistics don't reflect exactly, what people's economic situation. I took a 20% wage cut. So, lots of people, and it was sort of voluntary, but, everyone took those cuts.
Oh yeah. It happened to us too. It happened to us too, because nobody knew where this was going to go, right, at first. And of course, a business owner has got to protect his company too. But you're right. And then what about this? The government regulations. These little entrepreneurs that are going out of business, they're regulated to death too. I think we got to get back on that bandwagon. Less taxes, less regulations, to help the little guy succeed. Because quite honestly,
okay, so I know that you've been very politically active, and you've had strong opinions in the past. I don't see anyone espousing those things that you're talking about. I don't see a fiscal conservative. We have a social conservative in Aaron O'Toole and the Federal Conservative Party today, but we don't have a fiscal conservative. The only one that was a fiscal conservative was in the last federal election was what's his name from Quebec, whose other points of view were not so, but at least he was espousing, good fiscal prudency. And in Ontario, at times the Liberal Party, and I've historically been Liberal, the Liberal Party had some policies that were so left wing they were left of the NDP.
I know, and I think here's the real problem. There's an undercurrent in Ontario right now, and it's called consensus. And everybody watch. This party is starting to formulate and grassroots. And the Northwest Territory has consensus. Switzerland has a portion where you don't vote for the party, you vote for the person. And maybe that is an idea whose time has come, because look at what happened to, Preston Manning did the reform that split the Conservatives. Aaron O'Toole came in sounding like he was going to be fiscally responsible. Then he learned that he's going to half of his followers. So he's going to the left with the Liberals. And it's so hard, I think, for the average little guy to even understand what is going on. And I think that's the problem, whether it's south of the border with the Democrats and the Republicans, or it's here with the Conservatives or the Liberals.
So if you were running for Parliament or Prime Minister or whatever today, what would your policies be? Lower taxes, lower regulation? What else?
Oh yeah, bust up Bell. Stop the concentration of power in the media. Like these players came into telecommunications for everybody, and not to buy up the media and lay everybody off. That's not helping anybody. And then to hike our rates, we pay the most expensive. Anyway, that's just another one. I guess I would concentrate again on the main street. And these are the guys that really do create the jobs. Come on, 2/3 of the jobs that are created are small businesses. They're not the big corporate. Even banks making record profits have layoffs. So we got to get the balance of power back. And I believe that our political system, these fighting and the infighting and trying to appease this person, appease that person, appeases nobody. We got to get common sense. Remember that, common sense back in politics. So how does it happen? Well, as I say, everybody just keep on watching Consensus. Maybe go to their website and just check this out.
Okay, I will. And when you are prepared to run, let me know, because I want to be your campaign manager.
The doors never seem to open, Brian. Maybe I'm too outspoken.
Probably you are, frankly, because one of the problems we have in our politics is you got to agree with whatever the leader says. And that's something that I doubt you have a lot of ease with. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about your career. So you started in Aurelia with a small town newspaper. And then how did you get with big media in Toronto?
Oh my God. Hey, a little girl from Aurelia had to wear high-heeled shoes and walk up and down going to the Star, the Sun, wherever. I eventually got a job with the Ontario Chamber of Commerce. Therefore, that nurtured my love of politics. But they had a magazine called Ontario Business Magazine, and I was the editor and then editor-publisher. So that got me going. And then my husband was a photographer. He ended up, I turned down the Edmonton Sun newspaper. He accepted a job as a photographer. I ended up out in Edmonton. But that's how I got, and I said, how is Doug Creighton, the founder, who I absolutely adored, the founder of all of Sun Media, how am I going to get his attention? So I got Peter Pocklington to be my columnist. I eventually came back to Toronto. And then when we started up the Ottawa Sun newspaper, Doug put me and my husband in on the list. So he was photo editor and I was business editor. And what a great place. I was leading crusades on the high cost of credit cards. I led a crusade against the GST. Michael Wilson never forgave me for that. But you know, it was really a good nurturing. And then I came back to Toronto to take the helm of the money section. So it's been a great experience. It was a lovely experience.
What was the problem with the GST?
That back then, okay, so our largest trading partner is the United States. They have refused to this day to have a value-added tax. We adopted the European value-added tax. It replaced the manufacturer sales tax, so they said it was going to be revenue neutral. It wasn't. My concern was this is an easy target on the backs of Canadians, and that rate can go higher and higher. And so, you know, Sean Cretchen, they signed, you know, they were going to axe the tax. Remember that? And he got elected and they hiked it. It goes on and on. I just don't trust politicians. You know,
I sat down with Brian Mulroney. I was at a wedding and he was at the receptions off in the corner sitting by himself. And so I said, I got to take this opportunity. I went down, sat beside him and chatted, Brian Mulroney, the former prime minister. And we chatted about a bunch of different stuff. And he thought that the GST was the most important fiscal thing that he ever put in place, more important than free trade. And he said the biggest mistake Stephen Harper made was promising to reduce it and then reducing. He said, you know what? He'll never get all the votes for doing that. And what he did is he gave up the long-term fiscal sustainability of Canada.
And that's fine. And, you know, as we look at it, I could go on and on and on. We don't have enough time on this show, Ryan, but yeah, he's laid that out, but let's not forget he got reduced to a party of two. And Kim Campbell, they even did a takeoff promotion of me, you know, Kim Campbell wearing the judge's robe, and then they did a promotion of the Toronto Sun and I in the finance robe, prime editor, they called me, but anyway, not prime minister.
Who are your favorite columnists? Was it Peter Pocklington or who was?
Oh my goodness.
Who do you like to read more than anyone else?
Peter Worthington was one of mine. Andy Donato as a cartoonist, I absolutely adore. You know who's making a comeback right now is Diane Francis. And she has now a new newsletter, and I've been reading her stuff. She's following the United States situation very closely, and she's remarkable. So way to go, Diane. She's back out there. She's doing it on social media. There's so many that, you know, I loved. But I got to say, Alan Fatheringham, when he was in Maclean's magazine on the back page, I don't know if you remember,
yep, for sure.
Alan Fatheringham passed away a couple of years ago, but I got to spend some time with him, drank a bit of wine with him. Anyway, I love that guy's column. That's one that I totally adored, his wit. And what he called some of the politicians. Couldn't get away with it today.
I've interviewed Diane Francis twice. She's very hard hitting. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, she's hard hitting, but she seems to unravel it, and she's very knowledgeable. Like I was proud that when we had a couple of tax crusades, she was very careful, but she came on stage with me for a couple of them. She is so knowledgeable economically worldwide. So I think she's a lady to watch, and people should subscribe to this.
Awesome. And what do you think is going to happen with politics in Canada?
Oh. Aaron O'Toole better get tough. And it's too bad that we're back in the same situation. And then, you know, Justin Trudeau, he was away up here when the pandemic hit, and no wonder he's standing there. We're all in this together. We're all in this together. I'm going to help. But nobody ever pointed out the more money he gave was tomorrow's taxes. And then I became very cynical when this past Christmas, everybody, politicians, were down enjoying holidays after we were all told to stay at home. I'm sorry. I tried not to be a conspiracy person that would look at some of these things, but I'm getting a little fed up with this. And I hope to God that the vaccines roll out. And I think it's sad that Canada is in this situation with the vaccines, that we're supposed to be part of the G7 and the progressive. And anyway, I just hope we can get beyond this. And Will Justin Trudeau get in again? That's hard to say. I know, but all
the question I think is, will Aaron O'Toole appeal to you, to suburbanites? You know, you think about Stephen Harper. He got a majority government and he got a minority government where he did in both cases okay in Peel, Halton, York, Durham, etc. 905 around Toronto, around Montreal, around Vancouver, etc. And Andrew Scheer didn't win one seat in Halton, or in Peel, he only won one seat. In Caledon, which is not very suburban, it's more rural than anything else. And I just don't see Aaron O'Toole appealing to suburban 905. He's so socially conservative.
He's, as I say, his rhetoric at first was kind of promising. Now it's totally disappointing. You know, I'm going to say something. I was so honored to get a Brilliant Minded Woman Award with Hazel McCallion. And she stood up and there was room full of women and it was celebrating women. But she said, it is time for a woman prime minister in Canada. And I said, yes, Hazel, maybe that's what we need. The old boys club is not doing it. Am I right?
So it's either going to be Hazel or you, I guess.
Oh, yeah. Well, Hazel just turned 100. Can you believe it? And you know, again, I think she tends to go more liberal. I don't know, but she's common sense. And that's
she is socially progressive, but
right.
She's very fiscally conservative. And so she probably, you know, frankly, I think my politics are that I'm on social issues. I'm firmly within the Liberal Party, and I'm socially progressive and uncomfortable with some of the social conservative things that you see within the social conservative part of the Conservative Party. But then on fiscal issues, I am certainly more right-wing, more conservative than a lot of other people within the Liberal or NDP or whatnot parties. I think that right now we need stimulus budgets, but I am worried that this debt is going to strangle us. And all you need is, and you know, you commented about it earlier that we don't have subprime. We have a lot of alternative lenders out there, whether it's second mortgages or people that are getting mortgages that are first mortgages, but can't get it from banks and are getting it from people that are lending money. You've got a huge amount of home equity lines that are being used for a whole bunch of different things, including online day trading. And I really worry that you get a slight uptick in interest rates. And, you know, it's 1 to 2% or 4 to 6% doesn't sound a lot, but it's actually a 50% increase in your costs. And so too many people think about the actual digit rather than the percentage increase in that digit. Right. And so, you know, a 4 to 6%, a 4% interest rate going to a 6% interest rate is a 50% increase in your monthly costs. And people don't realize that. And it could really, and on a high number, it could come in. And I think the other issue, and you're probably more aware of this than I, but that in the United States, a lot of states have non-recourse loans for mortgages. And so therefore, when people are losing money, they just give the keys back and they get out of their debt. In Canada, all of the loans, all the mortgages are recourse, which means if you're underwater, you can't get out of it. And you're stuck in that until and unless you go into personal bankruptcy. And that's a real problem. And so, you know, that debt burden ends up becoming a real millstone around you for a long time.
And you know what, Brian, you're absolutely right. And way back a long time ago when Alberta went through, well, Alberta's in a crisis too with oil, but I remember being out there and people could walk away from their homes. But here in Ontario, you cannot walk away from your homes. And it's changed. And you're right. We just can't hand back the keys. So, and you're so right in pointing out this 50% increase. And a lot of people can't even pay the bills right now. So think about it. I agree with you wholeheartedly on this. I am worried about the financial consequences of COVID, of this record debt, and whoever thought. I remember railing on government, and 3.2 trillion across the country now in government debt. I mean, 163% of GDP. I remember when we brought Paul Martin, and Hazel was with me, to a room at the King Eddie Hotel, and we said, you got to get debt under control. And you know, he was the only liberal finance minister, and he did what we asked. He said no at first, and then he balanced the books. Yes, he downloaded to some of the municipalities, which wasn't good. But having said that, he did cut taxes and he brought the debt under control. And now we're in a huge mess. We're in a huge mess.
We're chatting with Linda Leatherdale. Right now, we're going to take a break and come back for some concluding comments in just a minute. And I guess I'm going to ask you, Linda, how are we going to get out of this huge mess? Stay with us. Welcome back to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. Huge pleasure for me to chat with Linda Leatherdale, who last time you and I met, we were having drinks on the back patio of a wonderful restaurant in downtown Browntie, if you can call it downtown. And you know, Linda, you're always a pleasure to chat with. But last thing you said is we're in a real big mess. So how do we get out of this real big mess?
Okay, well, you know, to both consumers and to our government, we got to learn to live within our means. You know, borrowing today and then putting that debt out there, you're just, it's like a noose around your neck. And that's exactly what you said, Brian. So I think we got to learn that you don't just go online and shop with a credit card, whatever you want. You've got to learn that there are consequences and that you can live on a budget. And I think that's it. We all have to learn how to live on a budget. And I know, you know, my mom and whatever, anybody who lived through the Second World War, they never ever bought on credit. They always paid. And if they had to work, they wouldn't get that item until it was paid for. Well, we're out of whack. And I think the other thing is, I think our capital markets need a shakeup. We need a national securities regulator in this country, but more than that, we got to get rid of this casino attitude towards our capital markets. They're there to grow businesses, to create jobs, not to float out some pump and dump scam, which we're seeing Reddit do, with no product, no jobs, no income, and people are becoming billionaires off of it. That is wrong. So I think government has a role to play there, but again, to both of them, live within your means. And Trudeau, quit telling me, I'm helping you, I'm giving you money. That's my money. That's my tax dollars that you're giving me. And my kids are going to pay for it. So it's time for him to do a lesson on finances. Did I say it tough enough?
Anyone else is interested in getting some quartz countertops? How do we do that?
Well, we have a gallery in downtown Toronto, 91 Parliament Street, but book an appointment. www.Cambria Canada or CambriaUSA.com. We're all over Instagram, Facebook, whatever. We have some wonderful dealers. And I got to tell you, these are the mom and pop shops. These are the guys that are going to help us get out of this. These small businesses that are selling us. So I don't care what you buy, but make a concerted effort to support our local businesses. These guys are going to have a tough time coming out of this. And you said it so well, Brian.
Linda Leatherdale, I want to be your campaign manager. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
You're hired.
Well, that's our show for tonight. Linda Leatherdale, the incredible media personality, started out in really as a columnist, reporter, and then way through the Sun media chain, specifically mostly in money and financial issues, and now vice president of marketing and business development for Cambria, a quartz countertop and shower and other manufacturer. Thank you so much for joining us and talking about the issues that are so important to all of us in Canada today. Really appreciate it.
Brian, it's been a real pleasure, and congrats on the show too.
Thank you. That's our show for tonight, everybody. Good night.